Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Join the trending hashtag BusinessIM. Thank you very much for making us trend this morning. We are still on this particular subject, and if you want to be involved, it's hashtag BusinessIM. All right, now if you earn more than 100,000 per month, you will soon pay 1.7% of your gross salary to NHIF fund if Parliament gives a green light to a new bill proposing changes to the current model, where employers earning over 100,000 shillings pay a fixed monthly contribution of 1,700 shillings. Now, this will effectively see contributions of workers earning 200,000 double to 3,400, and those earning 500,000 jump 5 times to 8,500 shillings monthly. Employers, according to the bill, will also be required to match workers' monthly contributions to the NHIF, which will come as an extra cost to local firms still recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the regulations, which were published Wednesday last week for public review before implementation, will make it compulsory for all Kenyans above the age of 18 to contribute to NHIF. Or should I add, if you don't pay, then you likely are supposed to be fined 20,000 Kenya shillings. Let's continue. This current move to change the law will make the NHIF the richest state-backed insurer as it seeks to increase its income to boost cover for diseases such as cancer and offer health insurance to all Kenyans. Official data indicates NHIF had 8.898 million members as at the end of June 2020, with a 4.452 million drawn from the formal sector and 4.546 million from the informal segment. Now, the current law change is geared toward addressing increased payouts that have piled pressure on the fund's near stagnant collections from our premiums. Analysts are already banking on the compulsory contribution to address liquidity challenges at the insurer, as data shows that of the 10.6 million members in the year ended last year, June, 5.7 million, or 54% of the total, had stopped their contributions by the end of August last year in the wake of the coronavirus-induced layoffs and salary cuts. That's where we are. But just before I introduce then the analysts in the studio who are backing this to reduce that challenge for liquidity challenges that NHIF, let's look at that data this morning in terms of where they are and in terms of members' contribution and the benefits paid out, that from 2015 all the way to 2019-2020, you can see that indeed members' contributions have increased. 2019, they did cross that at 59.5B, but also benefits paid out in terms of premiums as well, that has continued to increase as well. Fantastic. We also now continue with that analysis this morning. Let's move on to the next data set. Yvonne, if you could. Yes, NHIF contributions have increased all the way from 15 to where they are around that area of 59B. We've already spoken about that. But again, if you look at the payouts as well, independently, again, in the next data set, you see we did close 2018-2019 with 53B in terms of NHIF payouts. All right, let me introduce the gentlemen this morning who are going to take us through the entire of this conversation. In the studio, I'm joined by the CEO, Miradi Capital, and economic analyst, Abraham Mudhogam. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well.
Abraham, happy to have you around.
Yeah, thank you.
Online, we are also going to be joined by the gentleman that I'm going to introduce once we seek their view. Abraham, let me also get you then in this discussion. The other day, we saw the launch of universal healthcare. Then immediately, NHIF amendment bill that seeks to amend NHIF bill of 1998 came into force. From where you're sitting, I'd like to start with your views on whether you think this new bill, the NHIF bill, is the answer to the universal healthcare.
You see, if you look at this bill, what this bill is trying to do is trying to address the funding challenge that they're facing.
Yes.
In implementing the universal health care.
Yes.
The universal health care it's a good model. I mean, it's been done elsewhere. We're just trying to do it here because one of the things that a government must do is take care of its citizens, and especially the ones who are not well.
Yes.
And ensure that they're either made better, or the ones who don't get better at least live a comfortable life, affordably and sustainably. Now, if you look at this bill, it has good sides and some sides that may not be so good. On the side of increasing people's contribution based on your income, I think it's fair enough. I think there's no problem. If you earn more, you contribute more.
Yes.
Because you see, it's not an issue of equality, it's an issue of equity.
Yes.
Because we are saying, if God has endowed you with resources, then it's not a big deal to contribute 1.7% for your fellow citizen who's in another area who cannot afford it. So let's all contribute to this pool so that we share for those who are sick. If you're not sick, thank God. You don't have to that because they have contributed. I also have to use the money. But then again, there's the compulsory bit of it, where they are saying that if you're above the age of 18, then you must belong.
Yes.
Good idea. But if somebody cannot give a monthly contribution, then where will they get the 20,000 fine that you want to fine them? So some of those things, I think they need to look at some of the punitive measures. But the whole idea, when you look at it, overall, I think it's a very good idea.
It's a beautiful idea,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
Abraham, I'll be coming back to you because Kenyans online are pointing out various ways in which they don't think this is the answer to healthcare in the country. Let me introduce the conversation online. Wahome Ngari, who's a financial analyst and literacy coach. Wahome Ngari, your views on this particular subject. Do you think that this is the answer to universal healthcare coverage in the country?
Thank you and good morning. Delighted to be here with you this morning. The universal health coverage is a very great thing for this nation. It's an obligation of the government to take care of the citizens. The UHC has very many components. This bill is addressing the financing side, the funding side, but I'll tell you, I see a lot of shortfalls. The long term for National Health Insurance Fund is that it is insurance, and it is not working on insurance principles. One of the biggest principles of insurance is equity.
Yes.
You pay for the risk you bring. If we had 10 people who are all insuring their Pajeros, we don't ask one person to pay more than the other just because they have more income. And you have to look at these numbers to see 50% of the membership are in the informal sector.
Yes.
They are not being asked to pay anymore. What we are trying to do is to actually just strangle the guy we have. And I think there's a challenge here, and it's going to face a lot of opposition. That financing model needs to be relooked at. It's the one good thing is it's making it compulsory for every adult Kenyan to be a member and to be a contributor. We can deal with those who are not able to contribute, but that's a good thing. But there must be a component of equity if it is insurance, because it doesn't work in any other way. It's not a harambe, that if you have more, you contribute more in the harambe. No, this is insurance.
Yes. Pretty much. Now, Abraham, you hear what he's saying, and I want you to begin from there, that if you're calling this an insurer, insurance looks at equity. You pay for the risk that you bring in, but then two aspects there that you must pay. If you don't pay, then you're also liable to a jail term or getting fined 20,000 bob. And then he's saying that fact for if you earn more, you pay more. Why, if you're calling yourself an insurer then?
I think my fellow panelist is right.
Yes.
This is an insurance scheme. Yes. However, the model that they are using for contribution is a tax model, where you earn more, you pay more. That's the model they're using. They're saying that since you have more income, you contribute to this pool that we shall use to take care of people who are sick.
Yes.
And that's what they've opted.
Yes.
Of course, those discussions will be there, whether we use the insurance model or use the tax model, but they've clearly opted to use the tax model.
Yes.
Again, we'll also need to answer the question of, do you want to pursue equality or do you want to pursue equity?
Yes.
Yeah, those are some of the questions that when this bill is being discussed, which we are now, is some of the things we have to decide.
Yes.
Which way are we going? Because this one now, basically, it's following the issue of it's following equality. that if you earn more, you pay more instead of equity. So that it's a question of what you need. Do you pay based on what you need?
Yes.
Vis-a-vis, you pay based on what you earn.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's conflicting issues.
Interesting you should mention that, and maybe I should take you to this direction before I cross over to Wahome Ngari. Do you find it interesting that the other day we were launching universal health care, and then this bill now is getting thrown on the table for Kenyans to decide upon it instead of the other way around? Get done with the bill, clear, give it a green light, then after that move on and launch universal health care.
And you see, again, even before that, the universal health care in itself also could be tweaked more.
Yes.
Because even the way we've delivered, even NHIF as an institution, I think could deploy their resources better.
Yes.
They could use their resources better, they could be more efficient. So even that needs to be addressed while we are at it. These resources that we are pouring there, how well are they getting to where they're supposed to go? Those are some of the issues that need to be addressed even as we try, because it could be an issue of efficiency.
Yes.
Maybe with the same resources, you can do more. Oh, you see, so I totally agree with what you said. But again, these are two conflicting models that we have.
Yes. All right. Now, Wahome Ngari, I mean, we're looking at this bill as a bill that is supposed to address liquidity challenges at NHIF. Let's ask this proper question, which majority of Kenyans are asking. Let's look at that data again. It indicates that NHIF had 8.898 million members at the end of June 2020, with 4.452 million drawn from the formal sector and 4.546 million from the informal segment. Fine. If indeed then we are saying that this population of adults that are 18 and above, and that's where we have majority of them, and everyone will also be coming back to you with this question as well, because that's where analysts are also asking questions. If indeed the contributions from these adults, the new adults, which we do know majority of them, 40% plus in the economy, are not employed, fine, they will have these 500 shillings to pay. But then you see what we are introducing is more numbers to a scheme that is already struggling for liquidity, even with the few numbers that it has. What NHIF is saying is that should you give us this money, then indeed we're going to give you better services. Meaning, majority of Kenyans now would actually be forced to use NHIF, which up to now is optional. Wahome Ngari, if we are struggling for liquidity at 8 million Kenyans, what is going to happen when you introduce 40% of Kenyans who are not employed, or just going to give you 500 shillings, and these are the people coming to hospital to seek that treatment? And you're telling them, look, you can get surgery through NHIF. Are we not introducing more problems to our problems with no keyword, with lesser numbers?
The people in office are paid to think and solve problems.
Yes.
We have a healthcare challenge in this country.
Yes.
And so they must look for a mechanism of how we're going to be taking care of our healthcare challenges. And health financing is one of the challenges. And I think UHC comes from that perspective that we need to make healthcare available for everybody.
Yes.
And we are looking at quality healthcare.
Yes.
Now, NHIF has been identified as a vehicle for mobilizing the resources and dispersing the resources and ensuring that we're paying for what is genuinely payable for. So one, bringing every Kenyan on board is a good thing. Now, is giving NHIF more money the thing we need? Yes, we need more money. If we are going to give healthcare services to everybody, we need more money. And I think that's the only way I'm saying we need to have an equitable way of making sure we do the contribution. And we need to appreciate this is a second level taxation. When you actually work on, if you earn more, you pay more. Now that becomes taxation. But NHIF should be a membership institution, so we should actually be paying a subscription to keep our membership to it.
Pretty much. Just before I get back to Abraham Mudogo in the studio, but Wahome Ngari, yes, you're saying that we need to give NHIF more money, but then indeed we are giving NHIF more money and more people are going to depend on NHIF. In fact, if you're forcing me to pay, then indeed it's never going to be optional for me. I have to use the services. What are we saying then? If majority of us are going to pay 500 shillings, then you've not solved the liquidity challenge at NHIF. In fact, you're introducing more problems to NHIF. Because how many people, Wahome Ngari, are earning more than 100,000 in the country? In fact, the latest stats show that we're just 79,000 plus. So if you calculate this vis-a-vis the number of people you're going to introduce to NHIF, aren't you just going to cripple NHIF more?
I talked about equity.
Yes.
You actually pay for the risk you're bringing into the fund.
Yes.
And so that's where the challenge is. You can't ask one person to pay 8,500.
Yes.
And a person, just because they are not formally employed, they're in the informal sector, they're making much more money, you ask them to pay 500 shillings.
Yes.
That's not equity. And that will not work. And you're not assuring the person paying 8,500 that they're getting more benefits than the other one. So I think, and there are a lot of experts in this country. We have a lot of actuaries in Kenya who can actually help NHIF to look at that financing model, because the way it's getting structured is going to face more headwinds than become a solution. We need more. We need to cover everybody, and that's why the numbers will increase. But even as we can the numbers, yes, we need to have more money, but we must source this money in an equitable way wherever we're going to get it.
Pretty much. Now, Abraham, I also want you to react to that, because you're introducing more numbers to NHIF. In fact, this was we are threatening to fine 20,000, would only pay 500 shillings to NHIF. Hold on to that. And then you're also telling employers now that indeed you have to match your payouts. Again, employers are not for that as well, because majority of the employers as well also under their contracts will give you health insurance in the country. So we are making NHIF the richest insurer in the country. Look at this space now that we're operating in. What are we saying? Are we saying that also other insurers in the country will not have an operating space? Because we're saying, well, if I don't pay that side, I'm going to get fined. I'd rather go pay for NHIF and assume you an insurer who's a player also in the country as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with my fellow panelists. The issue of what really are we insuring?
Yes.
By doing whatever we are doing.
Yes.
And the end result is that we are looking at people making huge claims. And that's why even this discussion is here, because
Yes.
they're saying that the number of claims they have, they can't even keep up with them.
And that's
So
8 million.
So why don't we start from that end and reverse and work it backwards? I also believe that we are being too soft on the informal sector, because the word informality seems to be equated to low income, and it's not true. That's a fallacy.
Yes.
In fact, it is the opposite. People make good money out here, but they hide behind informality. So I think we need to tax our minds a bit more in terms of actual solutions that will be able to bring those people into this net and have a contribution model that is alive to the fact that they are informal.
Yes.
But they also bring risks that are not commensurate with a 500 premium. Because at the end of the day, you'll have a fund that is underfunded from an actuarial position. Because if you bring all those guys in, they're only paying 500, they're making massive claims, and you're only relying on these very few employed guys who are above 100,000. They're very few.
Yes.
And you won't tax them. There'll be minimal impact. The impact is here in this informal. We need to, in this pool, we've already taxed the employed people enough. Let's draw the line. Now let's work on. Even from the tax perspective, that has been the same problem. We've taxed these guys to death. But the guys informal, we've called them in the word informal, and we've let them loose. So let's find an actual solution that works for these guys. So that because if we do this the way we are doing it, it looks like we'll be back to this discussion in a few years.
That's true.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Join online at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. #BusinessIM. The conversation is going on. What are your views on this? Do you have the 20,000 bob? Should you not pay for NHIF because that's coming? And do you think it should be mandatory for you to join NHIF? I mean, the 8 million Kenyans who are there have joined out of their own will. Now, let's move on to the next one. It emerged this week that only 61,000 of the 2.03 million share accounts at the Central Depository and Settlement Corporation, CDSC, have been dormant for the last, now wait for it, 2 years. Analysts are putting this trend on a high-level speculation trend, dominating investor decisions on the bourse. They remained muted after Safaricom IPO of 2008, which brought nearly 1 million new investors to the market after the telecoms operators failed to repeat the act of Kenyan debut experienced in 2006 when the energy firm's shares doubled their offer value. Now, Safaricom's share price remained below the IPO price for nearly 5 years. Now, in an interview with Business Daily, CDSC Chief Executive Officer Ngoregambe Mwebesa, to be exact, revealed that some investors have never touched their accounts since 2006. Wow! Further saying that they have accounts with cash sitting at the depository, with the investors even having forgotten who their brokers were. At this point, let me introduce to the conversation Robert Ochieng, who's a data analyst and CEO Abojani Investments. They're online at the Abojani, was so part of the conversation this morning. Robert, good morning, sir. We seem not to have Robert online. Tabitha, if you could alert Robert to join us this morning. Abraham, let me begin with you. Yeah. I mean, look at that data. 61,000 only. Active for the past 2 years. In fact, if you go back again and read that report by the CDSC, that will tell you, in fact, that has been the trend for the last 8 years. You have to go back to 2014, 2015 again to find some activity. You have to go back to 2008 for you to find that activity in the market that had more than 1 million active accounts. What's going on? Who's trading? Let me ask that.
You see, 61,000 versus 2.5 is a very small number.
Yes.
But it says certain things, because we can only speculate what the reason could be. But there are several reasons.
Yes.
The first reason could be that given the very few active counters,
yes,
the liquidity is not high enough for everybody to participate.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, it appears that it's more a corporate driven boss than a retail one.
Yes.
So the retail player has nothing to do, because the retail player wants to do 1,000 shares, 500 shares. Those guys don't seem to be active.
Yes.
It's very, very, very clear. But I think what worries me about that number, I think it's a reflection of the skewed participation in economic growth in this country. Because it is showing that in the capital markets, out of all those guys who have a chance to participate, only those are participating. The reason is why? Did they come into the bourse not knowing what they were getting themselves into?
And that can be, isn't it?
Why did they come in, put money into the accounts, and have left some money there, and have forgotten even who their brokers were?
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes.
You know, and I think that's something that needs further investigation. Because why very few people? And if you look at 61,000, that means most of them, a good number, are institutional investors.
Yes.
Who are doing. So it could be an issue of liquidity of the market. It could be lack of information. These guys, is there any mechanism to remind them that you have an account? The same way banks, when your account is nearing dormancy, they call you.
Yes.
And of course, it could also be that some of them are no longer with us. So some of those account holders probably are deceased.
Yes. So
all in all, it's not a very good picture, because it means that we are not all participating in the capital markets as we should.
Yes. Yeah. I'll be coming back to you on that, because again, at the back end of your worry and saying that we are not participating in the capital markets as we should, I mean, from 2014 up to where we are right now, the market has been bearish.
Yes.
Could be another factor as well that would be leading to this. I mean, you talk to people about being financial literate, you tell them to invest. I mean, you did it back in, like 2 years ago. A lot of them who you pushed to the capital markets are not investing. Why?
Very interesting discussion here.
Yes.
That in a 50 million plus population, we just got 2 million people who have accounts, and actually just out of that, a small number is active. We must appreciate one of the biggest challenges I realize, and I talk to people every now and then about investments. The awareness level is just too low. It's just too low.
Yes.
Because A lot of people do not have an idea how you make the money. And most of these people actually bought because there was a very strong wind.
Yes.
Like you just reported. Kenyan did very well, and everybody just jumped in because they thought that's how it works. Now, when Safaricom disappointed, a lot of these people did not even look back. And in fact, if you talk to Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, they're holding a lot of these resources because people are not following it through. Yes, I appreciate we do not have enough counters, but we do not have enough activity in the existing counters. If you look at the way as a people we do our investment, this is not a natural way. We're very good in chamas. If you look at how many Kenyans are in a chama, you'll be surprised with the numbers. We are in the circles. This has not become our way. But going forward, going into the future, this should actually be the way all of us are participating in the economy. This is a very passive way of doing the investment, but the awareness level is just too low. I run the Personal Finance Academy, so I train a lot of people. And I actually appreciate that even people who are very well schooled, they are in professions. They are not very well versed with these investments.
Pretty much. Well, Gabby, just before I cross over to Robert, I don't know whether we have him this morning. If I ask you, can you read us into the mind of an investor who joins an investment vehicle, Robert, Wahome Gary, and then does not follow up on it? I mean, Wahome Gary, you gotta tell us now from what you're saying this morning, who is this sitting for more than 8 years with some money in some account somewhere and not even following it up? What is our mind? What are we looking at?
We were caught in a wind.
Yes.
We get caught in the wind not once, not twice. That's why pyramids do well in our country.
Yes.
So we have no idea where we are going, but we are told everybody is going and we go. But when we get there and we don't understand it, sometimes we just quit and go and forget about it.
Yes.
There are just that many people. And CDSC tries. They send messages to tell your account is dormant. Their system doesn't maybe work very well, but they actually send messages. But I don't know where the indifference comes from. Again, when you invest very little money, you are likely not even to pay a lot of attention.
Pretty much. All right, even as we look at how the equity markets have been performing, if only we could actually just give us this data set this morning, because the next question for Abraham is exactly how we can also look at the back end of that. We're saying that indeed, if you look at the Kenyan IPO, it excited a lot of Kenyans, a lot of them got on board. Fast forward to 2008, Safaricom IPO, a lot of Kenyans got on board. To be exact, 1 million Kenyans were drawn to the capital markets in the country. But then, the price remained below the IPO price for 5 good years, Abraham. Could this be a reason why majority of those who rushed in thinking it was going to be the same thing as Kenyan decided, not a good investment vehicle, and then they left? And case in point, and I want you to respond in this particular perspective as well. The other day, Central Bank of Kenya did launch the infrastructural bond. We're looking for 75 billion. They ended up getting 132 billion. So trading is happening, especially for guys who have accounts on the CDSC. But then again, can we blame the bearish market as a reason as to why majority of the investors who actually didn't have accounts from 2006 have not gotten back to it as well?
I think this issue, I think it has to do with counters.
Yes.
I think we have to stimulate counters. I mean, increase the range, because as you all know, it's about, you're talking about 5 to 6 counters.
Yes.
And dominated by the institutional institutional investor. That's on one hand. Now, on the other hand, this 1 million people that came in, why did they come in? Were they investors? Were they speculators? What really were they? What was their understanding of what they were getting themselves into?
Yes.
And to them, they basically believed that I'll buy the share for 5 shillings and immediately sell it for 10 shillings. That was their belief, because it had happened in Kenya.
Yes.
And the capital markets is a different game, where you go in with a certain, mostly you want to go in, maybe probably make a dividend income, or if you want to get a capital gain, you stay in for the long haul. But I don't think that mindset was with those people. And that's why as soon as that failed, they walked away. Actually, for most of them, they are done. They are done, and the they're not aware. And
It
they
looks
don't
as
really
if
care.
that,
Yes,
isn't it?
They're done. So,
They're done.
So
Yes.
the question is, are these people, when they went in, what was their expectation?
Yes.
And that expectation was very, very away from what NSC actually does on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
But then they believe that I'm putting 1,000 and it will be 2,000.
Yes.
In a very short time. They put 1,000, that 1,000 became 800.
Yes.
It became 700. At one time it became 500. You see, it was, and most of them still sold at that 500. So most of them actually lost money.
Yes.
But all what they don't know that this share was a long-term share. Now it's if they had stayed now, the share would have been 3,000, 3,500. So again, I think there's an education issue. But then again, you're educating somebody who's already disinterested.
Yes.
Yeah, because they had a nasty experience. So NSC have to figure this out.
Yes.
How are they going to loop more people? Even the 2 million over 50 million is still a very small
It's
number.
still a very small number.
You see,
isn't
so,
it? Yes.
so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
Think about the infrastructure bond. The infrastructure bond, if you look at the people who have invested, it's again institutional.
Yes.
Because either institutions pulling together retail and going as a bid, and with that, with the money market, people seem to be understanding what is really going on, because it's very easy to understand. It's a 12.9 yield, 12% yield annual, no tax, paid semi-annually for 20 years.
Yes.
And this one, everything is written and it is already in the For Safaricom, you don't know whether it will go down. So
yes.
I think that's what happened, and that's what we need to start from there to see how we can cure it.
Pretty much. We take a short break here on Business, and once we come back, hopefully we'll be having the Abujani in the house as well, so they can weigh in. The guys who were heavily telling people to actually invest on the stock market in the country, and also ask the question, Ben, if indeed 80% of the shares that are issued on the NSC are taken by local investors, how does this expose the bulls to external shocks? Once we come back here on a Metropole Television, hashtag BusinessM. I am at Kiange Simba on Twitter. Good morning.